News of the week since the last time that I done this, which I believe was Sunday, and there is a whole bunch of news that I have to talk about. And we start off with Nacho Piatti announcing that 2019 will be his last season with Montreal. So Piatti is going to be under his last year of contract next season, and he is openly announcing that he will not renew that contract. And this is a massive blow to Montreal, considering the fact that Piatti has been the main man for Montreal. I mean, not only he is one of the best player and one of the most consistent player in this league, but he's basically what Montreal is. Like, the amount of time that Piatti has carried this team throughout the last couple of seasons, now that they lose him for next season, yeah, that's a big loss. And for Montreal, certainly the clock is ticking on them to potentially find a replacement for him. And if they find a replacement for him, because he is just been unbelievable. And it's sad that he is leaving, and, it is kind of getting to that time where you would think that Piatti eventually would leave Montreal, because I think next season he's going to turn 35 or 36. And there's no announcement whether or not if Piatti is going to retire after that, or is he going to join another club to finish off his career. But it's now clear that he will not renew his contract and not be back with Montreal in 2020. Another guy that it will not be back for next season and for this season, and actually another guy that is retired from the league, is Brad Evans, who retired from MLS after, I believe, 10 year or 11 year in MLS. And he spent majority of his time with the Seattle Sounders, and certainly this is kind of a sad day for Sounders fan, because he's done so much with this team. And last year he wasn't actually with the Sounders, he was actually with Sporting KC, but he didn't play a single minute. I think he was recovering from an injury, and he of course hung up his boots, and he's been one of the most consistent kind of good defenders in MLS, and very respectable guy. And it's kind of sad to see him leaving MLS, and that at least he has 2 titles in his name. He won one with Seattle, and I remember he also won with Columbus back in 2008. Zlatan is officially announced that he will return next season under a new contract that is going to be a DP contract. So there's been a lot of speculation that Zlatan was going to be leaving the Galaxy and heading to AC Milan, but recently that rumor kind of died down, and a couple of days ago it's just been announced that he will be staying with the Galaxy, but this time he'll be under a DP contract. And I understand the fact that the Galaxy are desperately trying to hold on to Zlatan because he meant a lot for this team. But my question is, by burning a DP on Zlatan, who, I'm not quite sure if this is going to be his last year too, because in this DP contract it did not say when exactly his contract is going to last. And as of now, he still kind of signs with a 2-year contract. I feel like they could have done more with that DP contract. They could have got another DP and maybe let go of Zlatan. And as crazy as that sounds, and as crazy of how last season when he scored 20 goals and pretty much at many times last season kind of bailed out this team in terms of games. Yeah, I feel like, they could have definitely got somebody else in as a DP. And I think in some way this is kind of good for the Galaxy and good for the league that people get to see Zlatan again and play one more year. But I feel like they could have done a little bit better in terms of just not really offering a DP, or just kind of like maybe offer a TAM kind of contract. Although I think if they do offer him a TAM contract, he probably will not stay, because that's just way too little money for what he has done last season. And that's why the Galaxy, they just had no choice. That if they really want to keep Zlatan, they have to burn a DP spot. But yeah, next up, and this is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, blockbuster trade that we just had this off season. So it's very rare that you will see free teams trading players to another team and stuff like that. But that's what happened just a couple of days ago, as Kellen Rowe has traded to Sporting KC, Edgar Castillo to New England, and Diego Rubio to the Colorado Rapids. Refs will acquire Castillo as a direct swap for Rowe to the Rapids. The Rapids then traded Rowe and paid 200,000 GAM and 100,000 TAM to SKC in order to acquire Rubio. So basically, Karen Rowe was traded to the Rapids, but then the Rapids decided that they want to get Diego Rubio, so they traded Diego Rubio, or they traded Kellen Rowe to get Diego Rubio, and the Revs of course gets Castillo after the Rapids momentarily got Kellen Rowe in their roster, but later trade that position and trade that to get Rubio from Sporting KC. And I guess when you look at this free team trade, I think the biggest beneficial out of this trade might be the Rapids. I mean, later on in this video, I'm going to talk about how they made another big signing, because the Rapids, they are going somewhere. Like, this team for the past couple of seasons is a team that you would think that they wouldn't be spending money and they wouldn't do much in the offseason. Now, last season, I know they did something in the offseason, but they were trying to go into the championship and into League One to maybe find that answer, and clearly that was not the answer. And I think the Rapids finally noticed that, you know, in order to maybe be successful, they might need to trade a couple of their players and get some of those good players in MLS. And believe me, Rubio is definitely a very good kind of option. And I wonder, does that mean that, you know, Rubio and Kamara will start up top together, or would one of them start up top together, and, you know, either Rubio will be the second striker, or will Kamara be the second striker? But either way, the Rapids right now, they're doing something, and they're showing people that they are not just going to lie down, and that they're not going to be like the laughing stock of MLS as it has been for the past couple of years. And I guess for Sporting KC, it's kind of also a good deal too, because they also got Kellen Rowe, who is a good option for a depth piece. I know Rowe kind of fell out of favor with New England last season, but he's still a very decent kind of midfielder, and it's a good depth piece for that Sporting KC midfield that is already pretty stacked right now. But I think the biggest disadvantage and the team that lose out in this free team trade has to be the Revs, because, you know, to only get Edgar Castillo from that trade for Kellen Rowe is a little bit disappointed. And I'm not saying Castillo is a bad player. He's a okay kind of player, but, you know, you would think the Revs could have got a little bit more out of Kellen Rowe. And again, I know Rowe kind of fell out of favor last season, but he's still a very decent kind of player. So moving on, Sporting KC also acquire another player. They acquire Hungarian international central defenseman, and I do apologize if I butcher this name, but it might be Botun Barev, if that's how you pronounce it. But they got him from Budapest Horvat FC, a team that actually currently plays in the first tier of Hungarian football. And again, just like how they got Kellen Rowe for depth piece, looks like they got this guy for the same reason. They're trying to build up their midfield and try to booster up that midfield that is already very stacked right now, which kind of makes me kind of wonder why the Sporting KC decided to not really think about looking at the striker position, because with them getting rid of Rubio, they don't really have a striker. But then again, Sporting KC for the past couple of years and under the Peter Vermes system, it just feels like they don't really need a striker, and they still look very, very good even without a real number 9. And I know there's always this cliche about how your team have to have a good number 9 in order to be competitive and in order to be good in MLS. Well, it seems like Peter Vermes is proving those people wrong and saying that, you know, If you have good player in the midfield and you have good wingers on that team, which Sporting KC definitely have, and also a good defense, then you don't actually need a striker to in order to basically be successful. And it also helped the fact that your wingers and midfielder also score goals too, and that kind of puts a little bit pressure off the strikers. So yeah, but speaking of strikers, FC Dallas did acquire one, and again, I'm gonna absolutely butcher this name. I mean, some of these names that is in the Baltic states or in Poland, they're just hard as hell to pronounce. But they acquired Zdeněk Odrecka. I'm absolutely sorry that if I got that one completely wrong and I absolutely butchered it. But they got him from Wisla Krakow via TAM, and I believe this team is from the first division of Polish football. And you know, getting a guy from a kind of unknown league. Well, I wouldn't say Poland is kind of the Polish first division is kind of an unknown league, but when you get a guy from a team that is not one of those big teams in those first division, like Legia Warsaw, for example, then it could be a bit of a risk in terms of them potentially work very well in MLS. I mean, just ask the Quakes of how they got some unknown players from unknown Swedish league or unknown Polish league, and how it kind of worked out for them. So, we'll see if this move will work out for them. This move clearly is a replacement for Maxi Urruti that they traded away to Montreal a couple of weeks ago, but we'll see if that actually worked. Moving on, and speaking of the Rapids again, and talk about how they are really making some moves. They acquired Keegan Rosenberry in exchange for 150,000 GAM and 50,000 TAM in 2019 and 100,000 GAM in 2020, and a further 100,000 GAM depend on how the player performs. And yeah, again, the Rapids, they are really doing something in this transfer window. I mean, first they got Kamara, then they got Rubio, then now they got Rosenberry, and it just feels like they're not done yet in terms of reconstructing their squad. And next season we're gonna potentially have guys like Kamara, Rubio, Rosenberry, and Acosta in the same team, and that is a very decent kind of team. And I'm very surprised the Union decided to let Keegan Rosenberry to another club, considering the fact that Rosenberry were one of those players that were part of that young kind of Union team that did very well last season, and I thought for sure that they were gonna keep most of their young guys and not just let Rosenberry leave. I mean, Rosenberry last year, he did kind of at times show some mistake, and at times he did not look very good, but he's a very young kind of defenders, and usually young defenders does that and sometimes have a couple of off game. But as he just continue to go through his development, he is going to definitely be a very good defender. And I think the Rapids had just acquired a kind of young talent that could be very good in MLS in the future, and it's just kind of surprising why the Union decided to let him go when they didn't really need to let him go, and they let him go for very cheap too. I mean, 150,000 GAM and 50,000 TAM. That's not a lot of GAM and TAM that the Rapids need to acquire this guy that could considered to be one of the best defender in MLS in the future. But moving away from trade and talking about other stuff that happened in MLS, PSV, which is Precourt Sports Venture, and the city of Austin have agreed on a new stadium deal. So it's now pretty clear that Austin is going to get an MLS team. I know there has been no official announcement that Austin FC is going to be the 2015 that is going to be in the league, but it's pretty clear that they are going to be the 2015 in the league, and that Precourt is going to get his wish of getting an MLS team in Austin. And this is just one step further in terms of that move. And I guess in one way I'm happy the fact that Austin actually got a team by expansion and not actually getting a team because of trying to steal it away from another team and try to do the relocate kind of method as a way to get a team. So we'll see how that's gonna go in these next couple of weeks and the next couple of months of when Austin FC is gonna be the new team in MLS. And finally, Pro, which is the referee organization in MLS, is still negotiating with MLS for a new collective bargain agreement. So the current CBA is going to be expire in January, and right now Pro is negotiating with MLS in terms of this new bargaining agreement. And if they don't agree on this new CBA, then they of course could go on a strike after the expiration of the current CBA. And I just think that for this new CBA, hopefully it's gonna be a very good one, and hopefully it's one that would just fix the numerous problems that refereeing in MLS has. I mean, last year Pro was really under a lot of scrutiny of the way that they put out their referee, and how just so many games last season were influenced because of bad refereeing. And I even did a video about it, talking about how bad things have gone. And I just hope that this new collective bargaining agreement would address some of the issue that we had in terms of just inept refereeing that is going on in this league. Because at the end of the day, as much as MLS is going to continue to grow and continue to potentially be one of the best league in the world, if you do not have good refereeing, and if you have games that is influenced by bad refereeing, then it's just going to be turning into like Liga MX. I mean, one of the big reasons why Liga MX is not really considered one of the best league is because of how bad the referee is down there. And believe me, if you ask any Liga MX fans, you will know that they always complain about the referee. And they said that the referee always kind of tried to rake games and try to fix games down there because of how bad it is. Hopefully MLS will not fall into that category in the future. But yeah, either way guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time. And let me know in the comments below, what do you think of these news. And yeah, I of course will see you guys next time with another MLS news of the week.